Hi, I'm Lance Suzuki, and in this video I'll be taking you through every single fingering in the standard range of the flute. But before we get to those fingerings, let's take a look at this fingering chart key so I can explain to you some of the abbreviations I'll be using in this video. Let's first take a look on the back side of the flute at my thumb keys, and you'll notice that there are two thumb keys, a longer one on the right side and a shorter one on the left side. The longer one we're just going to call the thumb, and the shorter one we'll call the B flat thumb. Now for most of the fingerings we're playing today, it's okay to use either thumb key, depending on what key you're playing in. However, there are a few exceptions, and I'll be sure to point those out to you as we go along. Continuing in the left hand, we have L1, the first finger, L2, the second finger, and L3, the third finger, followed by the G sharp key controlled by the pinky. In the right hand, we have R1, R2, and R3. The right hand pinky has a few options, including the D sharp key, the C sharp paddle, the C roller, and if you have a B foot, the B roller. The easiest way to tell if you have a C foot or a B foot is to take a look at the number of keys on your foot joint. If you have two keys here, that's going to be a C foot, and it means that your lowest note is going to be a C natural. If you have three keys, however, that means you have a B foot, and your lowest note is going to be a B natural. Let's now take a look at the auxiliary keys of the flute, starting with this area. And every single flute is going to have at least one lever here. And if you just have one, that's going to be your A sharp or B flat side key. If you have two, the one that's a little bit further to the left is going to be your C sharp trill key, and we're not going to be using that in any of today's fingerings. Looking at the right hand, let's take a look between R1 and R2 to find this little trill key, the first trill key that I'm going to abbreviate T1. And notice that I'm always using my middle finger to depress this key. Between R2 and R3, you'll find another trill key. This is the second trill key that I'm going to call T2. And notice that I'm always using my ring finger to depress T2. Finally, in the foot joint, if you have a B foot, you may have a little lever attached to the B roller and the B key. And this is called the gizmo key. By the way, if you'd like a little more instruction on where to place your fingers as well as hand position, please check out my beginner flute series that I'm going to link down in the description. Let's now get into some fingerings, starting with the first octave, and specifically first octave C. To finger a first octave C natural, start with your thumb in the left hand, as well as L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, R1, R2, and R3. The pinky is going to reach over and push down the C roller, and notice the C roller controls both the C and the C sharp key. So just for a little added insurance, I usually press on the roller as well as the paddle. So let's review that fingering for first octave C. In the left hand, it's thumb, L1, 2, 3. In the right hand, R1, 2, 3, and the pinky on the C roller and C sharp paddle. And it sounds something like this. Let's touch on low B really quickly. And I didn't start here because not every flute has a low B. However, if you do have a B foot joint, how you're going to finger low B is to start with your thumb in the left hand, as well as L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, R1, R2, and R3. Your pinky in the right hand is going to have to hold down both the C roller as well as the B roller so that all three keys in the foot joint are depressed. So to review that fingering for low B, start with the thumb in the left hand, L1, 2, 3, R1, 2, 3, and the pinky is on the C roller and the B roller in the foot joint, and it should sound something like this. Okay, onward and upward. To finger a C sharp / D flat in the first octave, you're going to start with your thumb in the left hand, as well as L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, you're going to use R1, R2, and R3. And your pinky is going to rest just on this C sharp paddle. So let's review that fingering again. In the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3, right hand, R1, 2, 3, and pinky on the C sharp paddle, and it's going to sound something like this. To finger a D natural in the first octave, you're going to start with your thumb, and in the left hand, L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, R1, R2, and R3. In this case, the right hand pinky is going to remain open. So let's review that fingering again. In the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3, R1, 2, 3, pinky is open, and it sounds something like this. To finger a D sharp / E flat in the first octave, you're going to start with the thumb, followed by L1, L2, L3, R1, R2, R3, and your pinky is going to rest on the D sharp key. So let's review that fingering. In the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3. In the right hand, R1, 2, 3. And the pinky on the D sharp key. And it's going to sound something like this. Before we move on, I wanted to point out a small detail. Normally, in the first octave, the more fingers you put down, the lower the pitch gets, because these keys are closing off the tube and making it longer. However, why is it that when you go between D and D sharp, you put down another finger, but the pitch actually goes up? Well, to figure this out, you just need to look at the far side. Well, I guess it's the far side for me. It's the closer side for you on camera. But look at the other side. When I push down here, it actually raises a key, making the tube shorter. This little detail is going to become important as we move upward in the range of the flute. And you're going to notice that this D sharp key is in use a lot of the time, even if we're not using any of the other fingers in the right hand. For example, if I'm using all of my left hand, but none of my right hand, you notice that all of these keys are open except for here, where there's kind of a stoppage or a closure in the tube, which is why we vent this D sharp key to make it a continuous open tube all the way down to the bottom. And this really affects the tone color as well as the pitch in many of the notes above D sharp. To finger an E natural in the first octave, you're going to start with the thumb in the left hand, L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, it's going to be R1 and R2, and you're going to keep that pinky on the D sharp key. So let's review that fingering. In the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3. In the right hand, R1 and 2, with the pinky on the D sharp key. And it should sound something like this. To finger F natural in the first octave, you're going to start with the thumb in the left hand, as well as L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, it's just going to be R1 plus your pinky on the D sharp key. So let's review that fingering again. In the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3, R1, and the pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. To finger F sharp / G flat in the first octave, start with your thumb in the left hand, followed by L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, you're going to put down R3 and the pinky on the D sharp key. So to review that fingering, it's going to be thumb in the left hand, L1, 2, 3, right hand R3, and pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. To finger a G natural in the first octave, you're going to start with the left hand thumb, followed by L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, it's just going to be that pinky on the D sharp key. So again, to review the fingering, it's thumb in the left hand, L1, 2, 3, and just the pinky on that D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. To finger a G sharp / A flat in the first octave, start with the left hand thumb, followed by L1, L2, L3, as well as the G sharp key with your left hand pinky. In the right hand, R1, 2, and 3 are open, but you're going to put that pinky down on the D sharp key. So let's review that fingering. In the left hand, it's thumb, L1, 2, 3, G sharp key. In the right hand, just the pinky on that D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. To finger in A natural in the first octave, you're going to start with your left-hand thumb on the thumb key, followed by L1 and L2. L3 is going to remain open. And in the right hand, you're just going to have your pinky down on that D sharp key. So let's review that fingering for A natural, which is left hand thumb, L1, 2, and the pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. A sharp / B flat actually has 3 standard fingerings, so let's go over all 3, starting with the split or fork fingering. And you're going to start in the left hand with the thumb as well as L1. In the right hand, you're going to put down R1 and the pinky on the D sharp key. So that's the split or fork fingering. Next is the side key fingering. So you're going to start in the left hand with the thumb and first finger on L1, and then in the right hand, instead of pushing down that R1, you're going to reach over a little bit to the left and push down that A sharp / B flat side key. And you're going to put your pinky down on the D sharp key. Finally is the fingering that's probably the simplest, and that's the B flat thumb. So we're going to make sure not to use that longer right hand thumb key, but we're going to use the shorter thumb key on the left hand side, the B flat thumb, and then also put down L1. And make sure to put down your D sharp key in the right hand with the pinky. Let's now hear how these 3 B flat fingerings sound, starting with the fork, the side key, and the B flat thumb. As you can see, they sound nearly identical, and so they can be used interchangeably based on what key you're playing in, where the music is coming from, where it's going to. And if you want to learn more about how to choose the best B flat fingering, please check out the video I've made on this particular topic, and I'll be sure to put a link down in the description. To finger a B natural in the first octave, you're going to start with your thumb, and in this case it has to be on the regular, not the B flat thumb. And in the left hand you're going to put down L1, and in the right hand just the pinky on the D sharp key. So again, to review the fingering, it's going to be normal thumb, L1, and pinky on the D sharp key. And it should sound something like this. We've now completed the first octave of flute fingerings, which means we're just about a third of the way there. So congratulations, and thanks so much for sticking around. And if you're enjoying this video, please let me know by giving it a like. How about a little quiz to test your knowledge of the first octave fingerings we've covered so far? When the note comes on screen, please name it, then finger it and play it. How'd you do on that quiz? Please let me know down in the comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more flute content like this. Check out my handy flute fingerings poster that covers all of the fingerings in this video. You can find it on my website at lancesuzuki.com/store. As of today, I'm also including it as a free PDF attachment with my book, 8 Essential Exercises for the Developing Flutist. In the book, you'll find a bunch of practical exercises that are adaptable to the needs of flutists from beginner through advanced level, and I hope you'll check it out. Let's continue with our second octave fingerings, starting with C natural in the second octave. And to finger C natural, what you're going to do is leave the left-hand thumb open while you put down L1 and the D sharp key with your pinky in the right hand. So the only things down are L1 and the D sharp key in the right hand. Everything else is open, and it should sound something like this. To finger C sharp / D flat in the second octave, you're going to start with the entire left hand open, and in the right hand, you're only going to put down the D sharp key using your pinky. So to review that fingering, the only finger down is your right hand pinky on that D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. To finger D natural in the second octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb as well as L2 and L3. Notice that L1 in the left hand is open. In the right hand, we're going to do R1, R2, and R3. However, the pinky in the right hand is also going to remain open. So let's review that fingering. In the left hand, thumb, L2 and 3, R1, R2, R3, with the right hand pinky open, and it should sound something like this. To finger D sharp / E flat in the second octave, you're going to start with your thumb in the left hand, followed by L2 and L3. In the right hand, it's going to be R1, R2, R3, and your pinky is going to be on that D sharp key. So let's review that fingering again. In the left hand, thumb, L2, L3, R1, R2, R3, and pinky on the D sharp key. And it should sound something like this. I want to pause for a minute to point out some similarities and differences between D natural and D sharp in the first and second octaves. The main difference between the two octaves for both of these notes is L1, that first finger in the left hand. For low D and D sharp, that first finger is going to be down. However, in the second octave for D and D sharp, that first finger is going to be up. As we move above D sharp in the second octave to E natural through D flat / C sharp in the third octave, you'll notice that the fingerings are exactly the same as an octave below. Since the fingerings are the same, you're going to be making the different octaves using the speed of your air. And if you want to find out a little bit more information on how to do this, please check out my video on the flute registers. It's one of my more popular videos, and I'll be sure to put a link down in the description. The fingering for E natural in the second octave is the same as an octave below. You're going to start with your left hand thumb down, followed by L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, it's going to be R1, R2, and your pinky on the D sharp key. So to review, in the left hand thumb, L1, 2, 3, R1, R2, and pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. The fingering for F natural in the second octave is exactly the same as an octave below. You're going to start with your thumb in the left hand, followed by L1, L2, L3. In the right hand, it's going to be R1 and the pinky on the D sharp key. So to review, in the left hand, thumb, L1, 2, 3, R1, pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. The fingering for F sharp in the second octave is, wait for it, the same as an octave below. You're going to start with your thumb in the left hand, followed by L1, L2, L3. In the right hand, it's going to be R3 and the pinky on the D sharp key. So to review, left hand thumb, L1, 2, 3, R3, pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. The fingering for G natural in the second octave is also the same as an octave below. You're going to start with your thumb on the left-hand thumb key, followed by L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, you're just going to put down your pinky on that D sharp key. R1, 2, and 3 are all open. So to review, it's left-hand thumb, L1, 2, 3, and pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. The fingering for G sharp / A flat in the second octave is the same as an octave below. And you're going to start with the left-hand thumb, L1, 2, 3. Your left hand pinky is going to be on the G sharp key, and in the right hand, just your pinky on the D sharp key. All the other right hand fingers are open. So to review that fingering, it's left hand thumb, L1, 2, 3, G sharp key, pinky on the D sharp key in the right hand, and it should sound something like this. The fingering for A natural in the second octave is exactly the same as an octave below. You're going to start with the left hand thumb, followed by L1 and L2. L3 remains open, as well as the right hand fingers, except for your pinky, which is going to go down on the D sharp key. So to review that fingering, it's going to be left hand thumb, L1, 2, and the right hand pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. A sharp / B flat in the second octave also has 3 standard fingerings, just like the octave below. So let's start with the fork fingering, and you're going to use your left hand thumb, L1, R1, and pinky on the D sharp key. For the side key fingering, you're going to use the thumb, L1. Your first finger in the right hand is going to nudge that A sharp B flat lever, and you're going to put your pinky on the D sharp key. And finally, for the B flat thumb fingering, you're going to make sure to use that left side B flat thumb on the thumb key, L1, and pinky on the D sharp key. Let's hear what those 3 B flat fingerings sound like, starting with the fork, the side key, and the B flat thumb. As a reminder, please check out my B flat fingering guide if you want more information about when to use each of these very useful fingerings. The fingering for B natural in the second octave is exactly the same as an octave below. So you're going to want to make sure that you're on that regular thumb and not the B flat thumb. So in the left hand, it's going to be thumb, L1, and in the right hand, you're just going to have that pinky on the D sharp key. Again, to review the fingering, regular thumb, L1, D sharp key with the pinky, and it should sound something like this. We've now concluded the second octave of flute fingerings, which means we're just about 2/3 of the way there. And before we continue, how about another short quiz? This quiz will include notes from the first and second octaves, and once again, please name the note, finger it, and play it. How'd you do on this quiz? Please let me know down in the comments. Okay, onward and upward to the high notes. Let's continue with our third octave fingering, starting with C natural. And the fingering for C natural in the third octave is the same as an octave below. So you're going to want to leave the left hand thumb open, put down L1, and the pinky on the D sharp key in the right hand. So again, the only things down are L1 and the pinky on the D sharp key. And it should sound something like this. The fingering for C#/D flat in the second octave is the same as an octave below. So to review, pretty much everything is open except for that pinky on the D# key in the right hand. So to review, just put down that D# key with your pinky and leave everything else open, and it should sound something like this. To finger D natural in the third octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb as well as L2 and L3. In the right hand, you're just going to put down that D# key with your pinky. So again, left hand thumb, L2, L3, pinky on the D# key, and it should sound something like this. To finger D#/E flat in the third octave, all of your fingers are going to have something to do. So we're going to start with the left hand thumb, followed by L1, L2, L3, pinky on the G# key in the left hand, R1, R2, R3, and right hand pinky on the D# key. So to review, in the left hand, it's thumb, L1, 2, 3, G# key. In the right hand, R1, 2, 3, and pinky on the D# key. And it should sound something like this. To finger E natural in the third octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb as well as L1 and L2. In the right hand, it's going to be R1 and R2 with the pinky on the D# key. So to review, in the left hand, it's thumb, L1, 2, R1, 2, and the pinky on the D# key, and it should sound something like this. Please notice that the difference between an E natural in the first and second octave versus E natural in the third octave is just this L3 finger. For the first and second octaves, L3 is going to be down. However, for the third octave, L3 will be open. To finger an F natural in the third octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb, followed by L1 and L3. L2 is open in this case. In the right hand, we're going to do R1 and pinky on the D# key. So let's review that. In the left hand, it's thumb, L1, L3, R1, pinky on the D# key, and it should sound something like this. Please notice that the difference between F natural in the third octave and F natural in lower octaves is this middle finger in the left hand, L2. For the lower octave F naturals, L2 is down. However, for the third octave F natural, L2 is open. To finger F#/G flat in the third octave, you're going to start with your thumb on the regular thumb key, and it's very important this time that you make sure it's the regular thumb key and not the B flat thumb key. F#/G flat in the third octave will not speak well if you're on the B flat thumb, so make sure you're using the regular thumb key. So in the left hand, regular thumb, L1, L3, in the right hand, it's going to be R3 and pinky on the D# key. So again, to review that fingering, regular thumb in the left hand, L1, L3, R3, pinky on the D# key, and it should sound something like this. Similar to F natural, the difference between F#/G flat in the third octave versus the lower octaves is going to be that L2 middle finger left hand. So for the third octave, L2 is going to be open, and for the lower octaves, L2 is going to be closed. To finger G natural in the third octave, you're going to want to start with the thumb open, and in the left hand, it's going to be L1, L2, and L3. In the right hand, you're just going to have the pinky down on that D# key. So to review, in the left hand, it's thumb open, L1, 2, 3, and pinky on the D# key in the right hand. And it should sound something like this. Please notice the difference between third octave G and the lower octaves. And in this case, it's going to be the thumb. For the third octave G, the thumb is open, while in the lower octaves, the thumb is closed. To finger G#/A flat in the third octave, you're going to start again with the thumb open in the left hand, and then it's going to be L2, L3, and your left hand pinky on the G# key. In the right hand, it's just going to be the right hand pinky on that D# key. So let's review the fingering again. In the left hand, it's thumb open, L2, 3, G# key. In the right hand, pinky on the D sharp key, and it should sound something like this. Please notice the difference between G sharp / A flat in the third octave and the lower octaves. In this case, we're dealing with two fingers, L1 and the thumb. L1 and the thumb are down in the lower octaves, and they're open for the third octave G sharp / A flat. To finger A natural in the third octave, you're going to want to start with the left hand thumb, followed by L2. In the right hand, it's going to be R1 and the pinky on the D sharp key. So again, in the left hand, we have thumb, L2, R1, pinky on the D sharp key in the right hand, and it should sound something like this. To finger A sharp / B flat in the third octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb, and the rest of the left hand is going to remain open. In the right hand, you're going to have R1, and your middle finger is going to move to that first trill key, T1. The pinky on the D sharp key is technically optional, but for me, it's usually down. So to review that fingering, it's going to be left hand thumb, rest of the left hand open, R1, T1 with your middle finger, and pinky on the D sharp key. And it should sound something like this. To finger a B natural in the third octave, you're going to start with the left hand thumb. And similar to F sharp / G flat in the third octave, you need to make sure that you're using the normal thumb and not the B flat thumb. So left hand thumb, L1, L3, your ring finger in the right hand is going to move to that T2 key, the second trill key. And again, the pinky is optional depending on where the music is coming from, where it's going to. On my flute, it doesn't really make a difference. So test it out and see if it makes a difference on your flute. If not, just choose the fingering that's best for you, pinky optional. So to review that fingering, it's going to be thumb on the normal thumb key, L1, L3, and T2, and it should sound something like this. Let's now continue with 3 more notes in the 4th octave that complete the standard range of the flute. We're going to start with 4th octave C natural, and to finger this note, you're going to start with the left hand thumb open. Also in the left hand, you're going to do L1, L2, L3, your pinky on the G sharp key. In the right hand, you're going to do R1, and the pinky should be open. Now, if you have a B foot, you might find that if you reach over and grab that gizmo key with your pinky, it's going to make that C speak a little bit easier and a little bit clearer. For example, if I had to play a softer or a more sustained high C, I would definitely reach over for that gizmo key. However, if it's in the middle of a technical passage where there's a lot of notes moving, it's definitely too much to move over there, so then just leave the pinky off. So let's review that fingering for C natural in the 4th octave. In the left hand, it starts with the left thumb open, followed by L1, 2, 3, G sharp key with the pinky. In the right hand, R1 and pinky open, although you can optionally stretch over to the gizmo key, and it sounds something like this. To finger C sharp / D flat in the 4th octave, you're going to start with the left hand thumb open, followed by L2 and the G sharp key with your left hand pinky. In the right hand, it's going to be R1 and the pinky is open, but you can optionally stretch over to that gizmo key again. So to review the fingering, left hand thumb open, L2, G sharp key, R1, and optional gizmo key. And it should sound something like this. Finally, to finger a D natural in the 4th octave, you're going to start with your left hand thumb, followed by L3, and in the right hand, it's going to be R1, R2, and then your pinky's going to need to stretch over to put down that C roller and C sharp paddle. So to review that fingering, in the left hand, it's going to be left hand thumb, L3, R1, R2, and then the pinky on the C roller and C sharp paddle. And it should sound something like this. Now it's time for our final quiz, and by now you know the drill. So let me know how you did on the other side. Congratulations! We've now gotten through every single note in the standard range of the flute. And how did you do? Did you learn anything new? Or did it maybe reinforce something that you were already familiar with? Please let me know down in the comments. That's it for today's video, and I hope you've gotten some value and enjoyment out of it. Please let me know by giving it a like and down in the comments. Please check out my apparel and sheet music at lancesuzuki.com/store. Also, for more informational and inspirational flute content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell as well. Thanks for watching.